They didn't just take her money, they tried to steal her mind, her legacy, piece by painful piece, using her own life's work, her own expertise to build a cage around her, and frame her for crimes so complex, so personal, it almost worked. Imagine your own nephew, someone you helped raise, practically a son in some ways, turning your quiet life, your respected private name, into the perfect cover for digital theft on a massive scale. Financial ruin wasn't enough for them. They wanted to erase her, rewrite her history. It happened. It's a story that twists your stomach, makes you question everything. I'm Victoria, and you're listening to a story that, honestly, kept me up at night more than kept me up. It burrowed under my skin, a story about trust shattered into a million irreparable shards, and the terrifying brilliance that can be born from pure, righteous rage. This isn't just about money, though millions were involved. Millions carefully saved over a lifetime. This is about identity, the core of who you are, betrayal at its deepest, most intimate level, the kind that poisons memories, and a fight back so precise, so strategic, so cold. Even, it's almost breathtaking. You need to hear this. You need to understand how someone pushed to the absolute brink, someone systematically dismantled, found the strength not just to survive, not just to endure, but to utterly dismantle those who tried to destroy her, piece by piece, just like they did to her. Hit that subscribe button right now. Seriously, don't wait, because the story I'm about to share, the story of Celeste, it's one you won't forget. It will make you think twice about everything. I met Celeste, not her real name, of course, we have to protect her, even now met her through a mutual acquaintance, someone involved in veterans support networks. She seemed, well, almost deliberately unremarkable at first glance. A retired woman, maybe late 60s, early 70s. It was hard to tell precisely, quiet, reserved, polite, but distant, spent her days gardening, tending meticulous rose beds, reading dense history books, biographies of obscure figures. Military strategy, you'd never guess, never in a million years, the life she'd lived before, that she spent 30 years deciphering codes for the government, a cryptographer, a shadow figure dealing with secrets most of us can't even imagine, secrets that shaped policy, protected lives, averted disasters, the kind of work where success meant absolute anonymity, and failure was unthinkable. She was sharp, incredibly sharp, you saw it in fleeting moments, a piercing gaze that cut through pleasantries, a dry wit that surfaced unexpectedly, a way of listening that felt analytical. But she kept it hidden deliberately behind this gentle, almost shy exterior. A lifetime of discretion doesn't just vanish with retirement. After she retired, after decades in the high-pressure, unseen world, she just wanted peace, real peace, profound quiet, her small, tidy house. Impeccably organized, everything in its place, her garden, a sanctuary of ordered beauty, her books, companions in solitude. Her legacy wasn't public fame. She actively avoided that. It was the silent, crucial work she'd done, known only to a handful of vetted individuals, work that demanded precision, patience, and an unwavering ethical compass. But peace sometimes attracts predators, like stillness in the forest can attract a hunter, especially when they mistake quiet for weakness, especially when they see discipline and savings not as character, but as opportunity. Celeste asked me to share her story, needed it told, not for vengeance, but for warning, needed people to know what can happen when trust is misplaced so catastrophically. When love and family become weapons. She gave me permission to use her voice metaphorically, to channel her experience, to tell it exactly as she lived it, the initial disbelief, the slow dawning horror, the shock, the hurt, the crushing weight of betrayal, the cold, burning anger that finally displaced the grief, and the eventual meticulous reckoning. So now I'm handing the microphone over to Celeste. Listen to her words, feel her story. It started subtly, insidiously, as these things often do, not with a bang, but with a whisper, a helpful gesture, a concerned smile. My nephew Marcus, my sister's boy, my late sister Elena, God, how she adored him, worried about him. I'd always had a soft spot for him, felt a residual duty. Perhaps maybe felt a bit responsible after Elena passed so suddenly, cancer, swift and cruel. drifted a bit after that, lost his anchor, never quite found his footing. Odd jobs, vague projects. Always needing a little help, I tried to guide him, offered advice, financial support when I shouldn't have. Looking back, I enabled him, blinded by family loyalty, by Alina's memory. Then he met Chloe. She was younger, maybe mid-30s, glossy, put together in a way that felt performative, ambitious in a way that felt sharp, almost predatory, like a sleek hunting cat assessing its surroundings. But Marcus seemed genuinely happy, besotted, really settled. Even he started talking about the future, responsibilities, things I'd longed to hear from him. They started visiting more often, much more often, weekends at first, then sometimes during the week, bringing groceries, expensive organic items I wouldn't buy myself, offering to help around the house, fixing leaky taps, mowing the lawn, tasks I could manage perfectly well. But they insisted. "Let us handle it, Aunt Celeste," Marcus would say, all earnestness. "You've worked hard your whole life, time to relax." Then came the offers to help with my computer. "It seems a bit slow, Auntie," Chloe observed one afternoon, peering over my shoulder. "These things get clogged up, security risks too. You should let me take a look." She spoke with such confidence, such apparent expertise. They installed new software, cleaned things up, set up online bill pay for my utilities, my mortgage. "Easier for you, Aunt Celeste," Marcus would say, that easy, charming smile I wanted to trust. Chloe would nod. That bright, empty smile, her eyes never quite smiling with her mouth. "We just worry about you. Living alone, want to make things simple, safe." Simple, safe. Looking back, those words chill me to the bone. They were laying the groundwork meticulously, patiently. I was comfortable, financially secure, not wealthy, not by tycoon standards, far from it. But careful planning, decades of diligent saving from a specialized government salary. My pension solid, reliable. I had enough, more than enough for my quiet life. My needs were simple. My investments were conservative, managed by a reputable firm I'd used for years, chosen after extensive research. A firm that required multiple layers of security for any transaction. Marcus asked about them one day casually. While helping me prune the roses, said he was thinking about his future, getting serious about investing, asked about my strategies, my diversification. It seemed innocent, a nephew seeking advice. Chloe chimed in later that evening, over dinner they'd cooked, pasta, too much garlic, asking about digital security, online accounts, phishing scams. Said her grandfather nearly got scammed out of his savings, looked so concerned. It all seemed so plausible, concerned relatives, loving even. I explained my basics, two-factor authentication on everything critical, strong, unique passwords, managed offline hardware security keys. Mentioned the investment firm by name, perhaps foolishly. Maybe I said too much, pride in my own thoroughness, my security protocols. I showed them the online portal once, just briefly on my tablet, to illustrate a point about interface design, a fleeting moment. They seemed impressed, too impressed, perhaps. "You're so organized, Aunt Celeste," Chloe said. Her eyes scanned everything, quickly, intensely, too quickly, absorbing details, structure, security questions. It was a flicker, a micro-expression, gone before I could properly register it. Then came the requests, small intrusions disguised as favors, small at first. Testing the waters, could they borrow my spare tablet? Theirs was acting up. Chloe needed to check something urgent for work online quickly. Of course, I barely used it. It sat on the bookshelf. Could I help Marcus co-sign a small loan? A personal loan from an online lender just to build his credit. He needed a better score, he said. Chloe backed him up. Earnest pleas, wide, pleading eyes. Said it was for a certification course, cybersecurity. Ironically, improve his job prospects. Get him on a real career path, finally. I hesitated, a flicker of my old professional caution surfaced. Co-signing is risky. But he was family, my sister's son. Elena's face flashed in my mind. He seemed so sincere, so hopeful. Chloe painted a picture of their future, responsible, stable. I agreed reluctantly. But I agreed. They presented the paperwork electronically. On Chloe's laptop, said it was faster, more efficient, scrolling through pages of dense legal text. My eyes aren't what they used to be. They pointed where to click. Initial here, sign here, patient, helpful, too helpful. Signing that document, buried in a stack of digital forms, that was the first key they turned, the master key. It turned out, hidden within that loan agreement, was a sweeping power of attorney, giving them control over my finances, my accounts, if I were deemed incapacitated, a term they later twisted to suit their needs. Their involvement deepened after that, rapidly helping with paperwork, sorting through old files, tax documents, bank statements. Chloe especially, she had a knack for organization, or so it seemed. She volunteered to digitize my records. For safety, Aunt Celeste, cloud backup, much more secure. She spent hours in my small study, scanning documents, meticulously, too meticulously. Then she discovered my old work notebooks, stored away in a locked trunk in the attic, relics I hadn't looked at in years, filled with cryptographic theories, complex algorithms I'd developed or analyzed, old access protocols I'd experimented with, conceptual designs, notes on vulnerabilities in systems long since decommissioned, theoretical attack vectors, relics of a past life I rarely thought about, a life that demanded absolute compartmentalization. I don't know how she got the key. Picked the lock, probably. Marcus was surprisingly deft with his hands. "Wow, Aunt Celeste, this is amazing," Chloe exclaimed, holding one open, eyes wide with feigned wonder, flipping through the pages dense with equations and diagrams. "You were like a real-life spy, like something out of a movie." I laughed it off, tried to downplay it, said it was mostly theoretical academic exercises, boring stuff, classified history. But she seemed fascinated, genuinely, unhealthily fascinated, asked questions. Smart questions, disturbingly smart questions, about encryption layers, quantum key distribution, secure data transmission protocols, zero-knowledge proofs, things Marcus wouldn't understand in a million years, concepts beyond basic cybersecurity courses. She probed about specific algorithms, their strengths, their weaknesses, how they might be bypassed theoretically, of course. I should have seen it right then. Alarm bells should have screamed, the unnatural interest from someone supposedly focused on business administration. The way her eyes lit up, not with admiration for my past, but with something else, a calculation, avarice, opportunity. She wasn't just curious, she was harvesting. They were scanning them, every single page, digitizing my life's work, my intellectual property, my professional soul, while Marcus distracted me asking about garden pests or family history. Needing help with some trivial task, Chloe was in my study with her phone or a portable scanner. Click, 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 capturing every theorem, every footnote, every margin scribble. Why, I didn't understand. Not then, the pieces didn't fit, it felt invasive, unsettling, but the true purpose remained horrifyingly unclear. The first real sign something was wrong, catastrophically wrong, was an email not intercepted. This one slipped through somehow, maybe they got careless, from my investment firm, a standard notification buried in my inbox, confirming a large transfer, a very large transfer, initiated online, to an offshore account I didn't recognize, an account number that meant nothing to me, the amount, staggering, nearly half my managed portfolio. My blood ran cold, a physical sensation, ice water flooding my veins, my breath hitched, my hands started shaking. I called the firm immediately, panic rising in my throat, making my voice tremble. They were polite, professional, but confused. By my confusion, said I had authorized it, online several days prior, using all the correct security protocols, my passwords, my security questions. Answers only I should know. The two-factor code sent to my registered phone number, entered correctly, everything appeared legitimate, perfectly in order from their end. But I swear I hadn't logged into that investment portal in months. I preferred the quarterly paper statements. My phone, where was my phone? I always kept it right beside me on the end table or in my pocket, always. It was gone, vanished. Then Marcus walked in, whistling softly, holding a cup of tea, looking for this Aunt Celeste. He held up my phone, retrieved from his pocket, smiling that easy, disarming smile, the one that reminded me of Alina. You left it charging in the kitchen, silly goose. I felt sick, physically nauseous. How long had it been gone? An hour, 2, long enough, obviously, long enough to receive a text message, enter a code, authorize a devastating theft. I confronted him, right then and there, shaking, holding the printed email confirmation, my hand trembling so badly I could barely grip it. Marcus, what is this? This transfer, did you? My voice cracked. His face changed, instantly like a mask dropping. The warmth vanished, evaporated, replaced by annoyance, impatience, a flicker of contempt. Relax, Aunt Celeste, it's fine, just moving some things around, diversifying, making it work better for you. He waved a dismissive hand. Chloe appeared in the doorway, leaning against the frame, arms crossed. That same sharp, assessing look in her eyes. No pretense now, just cold calculation. We told you we'd help simplify things, modernize your portfolio. You worry too much, it's stressful for you. Simplify, modernize. This wasn't simplifying, this was grand larceny. Where is the money, Marcus? What account is this? My voice was barely a whisper, defeated. It's safe, Chloe snapped, stepping forward, taking charge, her voice sharp, cutting, safer than it was with those old-fashioned brokers. Stuck in the past, we're managing it now, using modern strategies, crypto, NFTs, high-yield platforms. She rattled off buzzwords, meaningless jargon intended to confuse and intimidate. Modern strategies, like stealing, from family. I demanded they reverse the transfer immediately, threatened to call the police, my voice gaining a fragile strength born of desperation. Chloe laughed, a cold, brittle sound, devoid of any warmth or humour. Go ahead, call them. Who do you think they'll believe? A confused old lady, prone to memory lapses, who can't even keep track of her phone? Or the loving, concerned relative helping her manage her complex affairs, relatives who hold power of attorney? She held up her tablet, displayed a document, the power of attorney, my signature, clear as day, digitally rendered at the bottom, time-stamped, dated back to the day I co-signed that loan for Marcus. I stared at it, numb, utterly poleaxed. When did I sign that? How? I never would have, never, unless those papers, the loan agreement, tucked into that stack, click here, sign there, cleverly hidden, misrepresented, fraud. I felt the floor drop out from under me, the room tilted. They hadn't just stolen my money, a fortune built over a lifetime, stolen my autonomy, my control, my legal standing. They had planned this methodically from the beginning. And it got worse, so much worse. The nightmare was just beginning. Over the next few weeks, it was a descent into hell, a controlled demolition of my life. They controlled everything, accessing my remaining bank accounts, draining them systematically through online transfers justified by the POA, small amounts at first. Then larger, my mail, suddenly started arriving late, or not at all important letters. Vanished, they'd collect it from the mailbox before I could, offering to sort it for me, to reduce your stress, auntie, my phone calls. Conversations felt stilted. Sometimes I heard a faint click, static. Were they monitoring my calls? Paranoia or reality? It was becoming impossible to tell. They were living in my house now, permanently, moved their things in temporarily, citing my fragile state and need for care, ostensibly to care for me, but it was imprisonment, isolation. Friends who called were told I was resting, not up to visitors, discouraged from coming by. My world shrank. Confined to the walls of my own home. They started talking loudly, deliberately, when they knew I could overhear, about my confusion, my memory lapses, forgetting where I put my keys, repeating questions, minor slips magnified into signs of incompetence, how I was getting paranoid, accusing them unfairly, misunderstanding their intentions, classic gaslighting, textbook manipulation, cruel and systematic, and I recognized it. My mind, though stressed, was still analytical. I saw the technique, the pattern, but felt powerless. Trapped in my own home by my own flesh and blood, my sister's son, and the predator he brought into our lives. Then came the truly insidious part, the part that weaponized my past, the part tied to Chloe, fascination with my notebooks. Odd emails started appearing, flagged by my email provider, or sometimes discovered by Chloe on my computer. Sophisticated phishing attempts, spear phishing, actually targeting specific individuals at financial institutions, hedge funds, using complex encryption, layered obfuscation techniques, methods reminiscent of my old work protocols I had theorized about, vulnerabilities I had documented, sent apparently from my IP address, from my devices. During times I couldn't account for, when I was gardening perhaps, or asleep. Chloe would discover them, bring the tablet to me with wide, feigned innocent eyes, feigned concern wrinkling her brow. Aunt Celeste, look at this email, did you send this? It looks really technical, complex, are you sure you didn't accidentally? Her voice laced with false sympathy, planting seeds of doubt, suggesting cognitive decline. Of course I hadn't sent them, the very idea was ludicrous, why would I? But the digital trail, meticulously crafted, pointed straight at me, circumstantial evidence, but compelling if presented correctly. They weren't just stealing my money, that felt almost secondary now, pedestrian. They were using my stolen knowledge, my digitized notebooks, my intellectual legacy, to commit sophisticated cybercrime, financial espionage, attempted fraud on a grand scale, and they were building a case meticulously, layer by layer, to frame me asterisk for it. Leveraging my background as a cryptographer, twisting my 30 years of government service, my reputation for discretion and integrity, into proof of my guilt, the perfect narrative, the perfect cover, the respected retired codebreaker, bored in retirement, skills still sharp, tempted by the challenge, or maybe financially desperate after mismanaging her own funds, turned roguey, turned criminal mastermind, operating from her quiet suburban home. It was diabolical. Pure evil masked by solicitous smiles, the sheer audacity, the calculated cruelty, it took my breath away. They systematically started selling my belongings online using anonymous accounts, but shipping from my address antiques inherited from my parents, my mother's jewelry, first editions of books I treasured, collectibles I'd acquired over decades, my father's service medals, replacing them sometimes with cheap replicas, poor imitations, hoping I wouldn't notice, or maybe they hoped I would asterisk notice another small cruelty, a demonstration of their absolute power. A way to grind me down further, seeing a cheap porcelain figurine where my grandmother's Meissen piece used to sit. It was a tiny, constant stab of violation. My reputation, built over decades of careful, secret ethical work that protected national interests, was being deliberately, systematically weaponized, used as kindling for their bonfire of greed and deceit. I felt erased, annihilated, invisible, a ghost in my own life, watching helplessly as these vultures picked my world clean, reduced me to a caricature. A senile criminal, despair was a heavy cloak, suffocating, thick and choking, sleep offered little respite, nightmares filled with mocking laughter and flashing error codes. I started to doubt myself. Was I losing my mind? Could I have done these things? The gaslighting was working insidiously, eroding my certainty, my sanity. Then the final straw, the catalyst, the act that shattered the suffocating despair and ignited something else, something cold, hard and furious, something I hadn't felt in decades. It was an official letter, thick cream envelope, formal letterhead, forwarded by Chloe with that fake sympathetic look. This looks important, auntie, maybe bad news. From the International Cryptography Association, ICA, an organization I'd been a proud, albeit quiet, contributing member of for 40 years, since my early career, peers I respected, conferences I'd attended anonymously, journals I'd published in under strict protocols. The letter stated, formally, coldly, that my membership was suspended immediately, pending investigation into serious allegations of unethical and potentially illegal activities, citing leaked evidence, provided anonymously, evidence of my alleged involvement in sophisticated financial fraud schemes, targeting secure systems, evidence almost certainly curated, planted, leaked by Chloe, using digitized fragments from my own notebooks as proof. twisting my theoretical work into criminal intent. My professional world, the quiet, serious respect I'd earned within that small, crucial community, tarnished, possibly destroyed forever, based on lies, built on their theft, their corruption, their utter lack of morality. That was the moment the ice formed deep within my core, the grief, the fear, the confusion. It didn't disappear, not entirely, but it solidified, crystallized into something else, rage, pure glacial rage, a cold, calculating fury that burned away the despair, focused my mind like a laser. They hadn't just stolen my money or my home or my autonomy, my present, they stolen my asterisk name, my professional honor, my past, my life's work. The one thing I thought was untouchable, inviolable. They had fundamentally misunderstood the nature of the person they were trying to break. They thought I was a frail old woman, easily confused, easily manipulated, easily broken, a fadding mind in a quiet house. They thought my skills were relics, interesting artifacts to be exploited. They forgot who I was, they forgot what I was capable of, they forgot that cryptography isn't just about creating codes, it's about asterisk breaking them, understanding systems, finding weaknesses, exploiting patterns. They understood the codes, the ones they stole from my notes, superficially, technically, but they didn't understand asterisk me, the mind that created them, the discipline behind them, the mind that saw patterns in chaos, that thrived on complexity, that knew how to hide things in plain sight, knew how to wait, knew how to strike. The game wasn't over, they hadn't won, they had merely dealt the first hand, arrogantly assuming they held all the cards. It had just begun. And I was changing the rules. Okay, Victoria here again. Just for a moment, take a breath. Can you even imagine the depth of that betrayal, the sheer evil of it, using her own life's work, her professional asterisk identity, the very core of her contribution to the world, to frame her? It's monstrous, it's psychological warfare disguised as family concern. Celeste's rage, it wasn't just impulsive anger, it was the fury of a life's meaning being deliberately corrupted, desecrated. If this resonates with you, if you feel that indignation rising in your chest, maybe share this story. Someone you know might be facing their own unbelievable situation, might need to hear they're not alone, might need a spark of that cold fire. Now back to Celeste, and the turning tide, the beginning of the reckoning. The rage didn't make me reckless, it made me focused, coldly, terrifyingly focused, like flipping a switch back to my old operational mindset. Threat detected. Objective, neutralize. My mind, which they thought was fadding, confused, kicked into high gear overdrive, decades of training of dissecting complex problems, analyzing state-level threats, finding hidden pathways through encrypted networks, identifying vulnerabilities, exploiting assumptions. It all came flooding back. The fog of despair lifted, replaced by crystalline clarity, purpose. They controlled my physical world, my finances, my home, my immediate environment, but they didn't control my mind. Not anymore. The gaslighting lost its power the moment the rage crystallized. And they didn't know the digital world, not like I did, not really. They were amateurs, clever amateurs, yes, but using stolen tools, mimicking patterns they didn't fundamentally understand, leaving tracks they didn't even know existed. I was the architect, they were just squatting in the building, vandalizing the rooms. First step, information reconnaissance. I needed proof, undeniable proof of their actions, their intent, the framing, the theft, and I needed to gather it without tipping them off, without them realizing the confused old lady was now actively hunting them. They were monitoring my devices, my known accounts, my home network traffic. I had to assume total surveillance within the house. So I had to go silent, become a ghost in my own digital life, while simultaneously building a new invisible presence elsewhere. I started using public library computers, several different branches, varying my times, my days, never establishing a pattern, used cafes with free Wi-Fi, paying cash for a coffee, staying just long enough, using privacy screens, set up multiple burner email accounts, encrypted, of course, through providers based in privacy haven countries. using non-attributable details, acquired a cheap, untraceable pay-as-you-go phone, a burner phone, purchased with cash from a corner store miles away, used only sparsely from public hotspots, untraceable methods I hadn't needed in years, standard operating procedure from a previous life. It felt disturbingly familiar, slipping back into old habits, old precautions, tradecraft. I began tracing their digital footprints, meticulously, patiently. They were arrogant, sloppy beneath the surface layer of technical sophistication. They thought they'd covered their tracks, using VPNs that weren't consistently configured, encrypted chats with weak endpoint security, Tor for some things, but not others. But they made mistakes, small inconsistencies, timing anomalies, reused passwords across different platforms, metadata left carelessly in uploaded files. Patterns only someone looking for them. Someone who knew their likely methods based on Chloe's questions and my own work would spot. Chloe was technically adept, yes, but Marcus was lazy, prone to shortcuts, predictable. He was the weak link I could exploit. They were laundering the money through a complex web of shell corporations, registered offshore, using my stolen digital identity and the power of attorney as legitimate authorization, funneling it through multiple cryptocurrency exchanges, trying to obscure the origins, tumbling coins, swapping between different blockchains, trying to make it disappear into the ether, into untraceable wallets. But the blockchain, while anonymous, is also transparent, if you know how to read it. If you can link the pseudo-anonymous addresses back to real-world exchanges or IP, addresses they carelessly used. And the framing operation, it was meticulous, terrifyingly so. They'd created fake transaction logs, inserting them into backups of my financial records, fabricated emails between me and supposed accomplices, using language patterns gleaned from my actual emails. They'd even used AI voice synthesis, cloning my voice from voicemails or perhaps recordings made in the house, used short, synthesized audio snippets mimicking my voice embedded in metadata to authorize certain actions online. Or in fake confession recordings, technology I recognized, cutting-edge tools discussed theoretically in my own research papers, now turned against me, the ultimate violation, my own voice weaponized. They were good, I had to admit that, the planning, the technical execution. Chloe, especially, she had a devious intelligence, a natural aptitude for this dark side. But they were playing checkers, focusing on immediate moves, individual captures. I played chess, multidimensional chess, seeing the whole board, thinking 10 moves ahead, sacrificing pawns to protect the queen and position the checkmate. I needed help, someone on the outside. I couldn't do this entirely alone, the timescale was too compressed. Their exit plan was likely imminent, someone with current, high-level technical skills, access to resources I no longer had, and absolute discretion, utter loyalty, someone who owed me a favor, or rather someone who understood the importance of the work I used to do, the principles we upheld, the lines that should never be crossed. I thought of Nightingale. Not his real name, obviously, code names were standard practice, ingrained habit, an old colleague, a much younger generation, brilliant cybersecurity expert, white hat hacker, consulted for various 3-letter agencies. We worked together tangentially on a particularly nasty state-sponsored malware case years ago, a worm designed to cripple critical infrastructure. He'd hit a wall, I provided a theoretical key, an unconventional approach based on my older research. It worked, he broke through, averted a potential disaster. He respected my work, my methods, my unconventional thinking. We hadn't spoken in years. Retirement meant cutting most professional ties cleanly for security, but some bonds forged in the high-stakes digital trenches, tackling invisible enemies, they last. There's a certain unspoken fraternity. Contacting him was risky, extremely risky, couldn't use normal channels, email, phone, everything associated with me was compromised, or potentially monitored. Any direct outreach could expose us both, alert Marcus and Chloe, accelerate their plans. So I turned to an old love steganography, The art of hiding messages within other data concealment, not just encryption, a technique as old as cryptography itself, but constantly evolving. I took photos, using the burner phone, innocent photos of my garden, my prize-winning roses, blooming defiantly amidst the chaos, a splash of beauty in the ugliness, within the digital image data of a photo of a particularly vibrant crimson rose. Hidden using a layered encryption and steganographic algorithm I developed decades ago, one I knew Nightingale would recognize. It had been part of our shared project's documentation, a digital watermark only he would think to look for. I embedded a message, short, concise, minimal data footprint, packed with meaning only he would understand. Nightingale, fox in henhouse, critical compromise, need ghost in my machine, protocols compromised, asset vulnerable, requesting immediate covert assistance, urgent, Celeste. I uploaded the innocuous rose photo to a public online gardening forum, a niche forum dedicated to heirloom rose cultivation, a forum I knew he occasionally browsed under a known pseudonym. He had a passion for rare flowers, an unexpected hobby, a long shot, maybe, but calculated, based on knowledge of the target, standard intelligence practice. The wait was agonizing, 3 days, 72 hours of nerve-shredding silence, checking my burner email every hour from different locations, heart pounding each time. Had he seen it, ignored it, thought it was a trap? Had I exposed myself for nothing? Maybe he'd retired too, moved on, disconnected. Then, on the 3rd evening, using the library Wi-Fi just before closing, an anonymous, heavily encrypted email appeared in one of my burner accounts. Sender, anonymous. Subject, Ray, rose varieties, innocuous, perfect. The body simply read, ghost deployed, listening mode active, awaiting instructions, stay safe, N. Nightingale was in. Relief washed over me. So potent it almost made me weep. I wasn't alone anymore. He remotely, silently, expertly installed bespoke monitoring software on my home network, exploiting a 0-day vulnerability in the router firmware Chloe had overlooked. He placed undetectable listeners on my laptop and my tablet, even Chloe's and Marcus's own devices when they carelessly connected to the compromised network. Software that Marcus and Chloe's basic commercial security sweeps wouldn't detect, far beyond their capabilities. He became my eyes and ears inside my own prison, a ghost in their machine. Now we gathered evidence, real-time data, corroboration, proof. Nightingale intercepted their encrypted chats, decrypting them on the fly using keys harvested from their devices. He logged their financial transactions, tracing the crypto flows, identifying their hidden wallets, their preferred exchanges. He captured their nervous web searches, keywords like federal wire fraud statute of limitations, extradition treaties, offshore havens, minimum sentencing guidelines, cybercrime. Their initial arrogance started cracking, flacking away, replaced by fleeting moments of panic, paranoid accusations against each other, which Nightingale captured, priceless. They were planning an exit strategy, accelerating it now, perhaps sensing something, a final massive transfer of the remaining accessible funds, including liquidating some of my remaining legitimate assets they controlled via the POE, then disappear, new identities, offshore haven, leaving me financially destitute, professionally ruined, and facing federal charges, leaving the confused old cryptographer holding the bag for their vast digital heist, the perfect scapegoat. We saw the plan forming, the target date, less than a week away, the specific accounts involved, the final destination wallet addresses. They were getting sloppy in their haste, making more mistakes. It was time to build the trap, the counter-offensive. My plan wasn't just about exposing them or getting my money back, though that was important. It was about dismantling their entire operation, systematically, conclusively, reclaiming my name, my legacy, publicly and definitively, and ensuring the consequences were severe, unavoidable, proportionate to the violation. It needed to be surgical, precise, elegant, in a ruthless sort of way, and it needed to leverage their own tools, their own arrogance, their own stolen knowledge against them, a beautiful irony. I designed a digital honeypot, a trap disguised as treasure, a fake ledger, planted deep within a supposedly secure area of my old digitized records. An area Chloe had shown interest in, made to look like a hidden stash of cryptocurrency I'd secretly accumulated years ago, my own retirement fund, hidden from the government, perhaps plausible deniability for its existence. Using an older, slightly flawed encryption method I'd detailed exhaustively in one of my notebooks. Complete with theoretical vulnerabilities outlined, a method I knew Chloe had studied, copied. She'd even asked me questions about its specific weaknesses, disguised as historical curiosity, but she likely hadn't fully grasped the subtle countermeasures I'd also documented, or the implications of using the primary key in a specific sequence. Hubris. Nightingale helped me plant it, remotely, carefully, deep within the monitored network structure, disguised to look like an accidental discovery, a forgotten file stumbled upon during their final sweep of my data, too tempting for them to ignore a final bonus score before vanishing, predictable greed. Embedded within this honeypot, triggered by the specific act of attempting decryption with the stolen key, was the real weapon, a logic bomb, a sophisticated piece of malicious code, dormant, invisible, until triggered by their own actions, like a digital landmine, waiting for the precise pressure. The trigger wasn't just designed to block them, or alert me, oh no, that was amateur hour, it was designed to unleash hell, a simultaneous, multi-pronged digital counterstrike, executed in milliseconds. Simultaneously it would, 1. Instantly wipe their access credentials, all of them, clean from the entire network, my financial portals, everything, locking them out completely, bricking their access to, trigger an immediate, anonymized, heavily encrypted data dump to specific contacts within federal authorities, specifically the FBI Cybercrime Division and the IRS Criminal Investigation Unit. Contacts Nightingale had cultivated, this dump contained everything. The real transaction logs, their decrypted communications planning the crimes, IP addresses linked to their devices, proof of the identity theft, the POA fraud, the voice cloning, the framing attempt, everything needed for an airtight case, compiled and packaged by Nightingale, annotated, undeniable, irrefutable. 3. Send a separate, equally detailed, encrypted package directly to the Ethics Committee chair of the International Cryptography Association. And to key figures within my professional community, senior academics and trusted former colleagues. This package contained absolute proof of my innocence, detailed forensic evidence of how my work was stolen and misused, exposing Marcus and Chloe's scheme completely, clearing my name definitively, vindicating my legacy. 4. Initiate a trace, freeze and clawback command on their real cryptocurrency wallets, the ones Nightingale had painstakingly identified and mapped. Routing the requests through legitimate international financial intelligence units and compliant exchanges to maximize recovery chances, hitting them simultaneously across multiple jurisdictions. 5. Activate a subtle wiper malware on their personal devices connected to my network at that moment. Not a destructive wipe, but one designed to corrupt key system files and stored credentials, making forensic recovery by them difficult and time-consuming, sowing chaos and confusion in the immediate aftermath. It was complex, multi-layered, interdependent, one wrong move, one undetected error in my code or Nightingale's deployment, and it could all fall apart or worse, backfire, trigger prematurely, alert them, expose us. But as the day approached, their planned exit day, D-Day, I didn't feel fear, strangely. The fear was gone, replaced by calm, a chillingly calm resolve, a detached focus I hadn't felt since my operational days, facing down critical threats. They had awakened a part of me I thought was long dormant, buried under decades of quiet retirement, the part that thrived on high-stakes, complex calculations, precise execution, the part that finished the job no matter the cost. The night before, the atmosphere in the house was thick with tension, palpable. Marcus and Chloe were agitated, jumpy, nervous energy radiated from them. They were arguing in hushed, angry tones in the living room, thought I was asleep about destinations, flight details, money division, loose ends. Chloe criticizing Marcus's carelessness, Marcus defensive, resentful. They thought they were whispering, but Nightingale heard everything, recorded everything, transmitted it securely, Maury nails in their coffin. They thought they were hours away from freedom, from a luxurious new life, built on my ruin, my professional disgrace. They toasted each other quietly with my expensive whiskey, a final act of parasitic entitlement. They had no idea they were walking into a digital fortress, a precisely engineered trap, designed by the very mind they tried to break, the legacy they tried to steal. The next morning, early, sunlight streaming through the windows, mocking the darkness of their deeds, they initiated the final sequence, consolidating funds, preparing the large crypto transfer to their escape wallet, accessing the honeypot, the fake ledger, seeing the unexpected bonus, greed overcoming caution, using the stolen decryption key, the one harvested from my notebooks, the key to their own destruction. Just as I knew they would, their greed, their arrogance, their fatal flaw predictable. Exploitable. Click, the command executed, the decryption attempt initiated. The moment they entered the command, the logic bomb detonated, silently, instantly. Silence, a split second of digital silence. Then the chaos. From my bedroom window, hidden behind the lace curtains, watching the driveway, I observed dispassionately, coldly, like watching a simulation unfold according to plan. First, their frantic attempts to log back into the network, into the crypto exchanges, into their own email failed, access denied, invalid credentials. Again and again, confusion turning to raw panic on their faces, visible even from a distance as they stared at their laptop screens on the patio, packing, gesturing wildly, Chloe yelling at Marcus, Marcus throwing his hands up. Then sirens, distant at first, a faint wail, growing rapidly louder, closer, converging, flashing blue and red lights filling the quiet suburban street, bouncing off the houses, shattering the morning calm, federal agents, FBI jackets, IRSCI agents, swarming the house, surrounding it, moving with practiced efficiency, professional, serious, weapons drawn but held low. Marcus, seeing them, comprehending, collapsed onto the front lawn sobbing, a pathetic, broken figure, Chloe, standing rigid, impossibly pale, staring at the approaching agents, her calculating mind finally understanding. She'd been outplayed, utterly, comprehensively, checkmated. It was swift, brutal, clinical, overwhelming force, precisely applied. They were escorted away, separately in handcuffs, Mirandized, placed in unmarked cars, no resistance offered, the fight had drained out of them. Replaced by shock and terror, the agents meticulously searched the house, bagging evidence, computers, phones, tablets, my notebooks, financial records, everything confirming the data dump Nightingale had provided. A senior agent, calm, stern face, approached me later. After the initial sweep, introduced himself, Special Agent Coulthard, FBI Cyber Division, said they'd received an anonymous tip, extremely detailed, comprehensive data, painting a very clear, very disturbing picture. He looked at me, a long, considering look, assessing the frail old lady sitting on the porch swing, clutching a cup of tea, appearing bewildered. Someone knew exactly where to point us, exactly what to look for. Gave us everything on a silver platter. His eyes held a question, unspoken, professional curiosity. I just nodded, quietly, took a shaky sip of tea, played the part of the bewildered, traumatized victim. It wasn't entirely untrue. I was bewildered by the depths of their cruelty. I was traumatized, and profoundly grateful it was ending. I'm just grateful it's over, Agent, I whispered, voice trembling slightly. I didn't know who to turn to, I felt so trapped. He patted my shoulder gently. You're safe now, ma'am, we'll take it from here. The fallout was significant, as expected, as planned. Marcus and Chloe faced a battery of federal charges: identity theft, aggravated identity theft, wire fraud, bank fraud, money laundering, conspiracy to commit fraud, computer intrusion. The list was long, the evidence overwhelming, irrefutable. Their lawyers barely put up a fight, faced with Nightingale's meticulous data package, the decrypted chats, the forensic evidence from the devices, the POA fraud documentation. Plea bargains were eventually reached, avoiding a lengthy, complex trial. But the sentences were still substantial, federally mandated minimums for some charges, years, long years, served in separate federal facilities, time to reflect on their choices. The financial recovery was partial but better than expected. Cryptocurrencies are volatile, difficult to trace completely once laundered effectively. Some was lost, vanished into uncooperative offshore exchanges or mixers, but Nightingale's swift action, the freeze commands hitting simultaneously, secured a significant portion, enough and more than enough for me to live comfortably, to rebuild her, to feel secure again. But the money, honestly, it was secondary, a means to an end, a tool. It was never just about the money. The real victory, the core objective, was my name, my legacy. The encrypted package sent simultaneously to the International Cryptography Association. It worked perfectly, disseminated discreetly among the leadership and trusted senior members. The evidence was irrefutable, forensically sound. It showed not only my innocence but the precise methods used to steal and misuse my work. My suspension was immediately lifted, quietly, without public fanfare. Respecting my lifelong preference for discretion, apologies were issued, formally, privately, profoundly. From the association president, from former colleagues who had received the package, the community understood. The respect, hardened over decades of silent contribution, was restored, untarnished, vindicated. My old life, the quiet, trusting life I cherished before Marcus and Chloe, that was gone, irretrievably changed. Shattered trust leaves deep scars. Trust, once given freely, especially to family, now felt like a dangerous currency, to be dispensed with extreme caution, if at all. But I wasn't broken, far from it. Adversity reveals character, or sometimes forges it anew. I moved, sold the house. The memories were too toxic. Every room held a shadow, a reminder of the violation. Found a smaller place, an apartment overlooking the sea. The rhythmic sound of the waves is soothing, constant, reliable, still quiet, still filled with books, history, strategy, philosophy now, and a small balcony garden, resilient herbs mostly. But something inside me had shifted, fundamentally, hardened perhaps, tempered, certainly. The gentle exterior remained, mostly. Politeness costs nothing, observation requires stillness. But underneath there was steel, forged in the fire of betrayal, tempered by the cold, precise execution of justice, my justice. Was it revenge, or was it simply rebalancing the scales, restoring equilibrium, taking back what was mine, my security, my peace, my name, my legacy, using the very skills they tried to turn against me, the tools they stole? Perhaps it was both. Justice and revenge aren't always mutually exclusive, especially when the system itself might have been compromised by their narrative, their manipulation. I don't regret the methods I used, the ruthlessness, the cold calculation, the digital ambush. They chose the battlefield. They chose the weapons when they digitized my life's work. When they weaponized my identity, they underestimated their opponent. A fatal mistake. Underestimation is always a critical vulnerability. My mind, my cryptographic mind, they saw it as a tool to exploit, a resource to plunder, a vulnerability associated with age. They never imagined it could be the weapon that brought them down swiftly, decisively, completely. Sometimes the quietest people hold the biggest secrets, the deepest knowledge, and the sharpest blades, hidden in plain sight, waiting. My peace is different now, warier, more guarded, less innocent, but it is mine, earned, reclaimed, defended. And that is a victory no one can ever take away. Wow, just wow, Celeste's story. It's a lot to take in, isn't it? The calculation, the cold fury, the sheer strategic brilliance of her response, turning their own weapons back on them with such devastating precision. It's chilling, the level of planning, the cold execution, but also incredibly satisfying, isn't it? Deep down somewhere, to see someone fight back not just with strength, but with intellect, with precision, using the very expertise the perpetrators tried to weaponize against her, a kind of poetic justice, amplified by technology. They thought they were dealing with a fadding mind, a helpless victim. They found a master strategist playing a long game, executing a flawless counterattack from deep within occupied territory. It raises questions, though, doesn't it? Hard questions about justice versus revenge, when the system itself seems vulnerable to manipulation, when faced with gaslighting and meticulously crafted lies designed to discredit the victim. Is taking matters into your own hands, especially with such ruthless efficiency, justified? Necessary, even? Celeste found her own justice, harshly definitive, total. She reclaimed her life, her name, her security on her own terms, using her unique skills. But the cost, the change in her, the hardening, it's undeniable, the scars remain. What do you think? Was Celeste's response proportional to the violation? Was it righteous fury channeled into action or cold, calculated vengeance? Where is the line? And did she cross it? Or did they force her hand? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I truly want to hear what you think about this one. It's complex, morally grey in some ways. These stories, they're intense, they're unsettling. They remind us of the dark side of trust, the terrifying potential for betrayal, especially from those closest to us. But also, they showcase the incredible resilience of the human spirit, the strength people find when pushed to the absolute edge. Thank you for listening, for being part of this space where we share these powerful, often difficult narratives. If Celeste's story moved you, or shocked you, or made you think, please consider subscribing if you haven't already, and maybe sharing it. You never know who might need to hear that even in the face of the darkest betrayal, strength and justice can still be found, often in the most unexpected ways, sometimes within themselves. I'm Victoria. Until next time, stay aware, stay strong, question everything, and listen closely to the stories around you. They matter, they teach us, they warn us.